We're breaking down wide receiver options for the Buffalo Bills in the 2025 NFL Draft today on Locked On Bills.
You are Locked On Bills, your daily Buffalo Bills podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Bills Mafia? It's Joe Marino, author of the Herd Mentality Substack, co-host of the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast, co-host of the NFL First Read Podcast, and I'm your host of Locked On Bills. Want to thank you for making Locked On Bills your first listen every day, and a big welcome and shout out to our everydayers. You know who you are. Those of you who never miss a single episode, I appreciate y'all being here very, very much. I'd also like to invite you to subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Well, folks, welcome in. Very excited to talk about wide receivers on today's episode as we continue our work in creating the Bills 2025 NFL Draft Board. We've done a lot already. We did 2 episodes on corners, 2 on defensive tackles, 3 on edge rushers, and today we focus in on wide receivers. We're going to cover 8 of them, and we are going to focus on wide receivers that have speed and field stretching ability. And it's interesting to consider the need that the Bills have at wide receiver because Khalil Shakir just signed a contract extension. Obviously, he's a big part of the plan. They just signed Joshua Palmer to a 3-year deal. Keon Coleman, a second-round draft pick, the 33rd pick in the draft last year. You know, that's kind of your top 3 at receiver. You have Curtis Samuel as potentially an X factor. And, you know, the Bills have only really rostered 5 receivers. So would it be a draft pick? Would it be a competition between Tyrell Shavers and Jalen Virgil? Kind of curious to see how this goes. But I'm not super convinced that the Bills are really in search of big-time help at receiver. I think they're looking for a specific type of receiver. And that's why we're going to focus our conversation on receivers that have speed and field stretching ability. Brandon Beane was asked at the NFL owners meeting about a week or so ago about the needs at receiver. And he said, needs? I wouldn't say needs, but we'll look for competition. But I mean, I would say our offense did pretty good last year. I think when you look across the board, I don't have all the metrics of, you know, points, scoring, all that stuff, but I think what Joe Brady and Josh Allen and our offensive team did was pretty good. Talked about how they were excited to have Joshua Palmer in the mix and called him a positionless player. And then said, quote, there's still time to add more players, but am I sitting here going, man, we have a hole at receiver? No. And then when Sean McDermott's been asked about the need at receiver this offseason, he's really taken the conversation to more of a need to be able to stretch the field horizontally and vertically. And I don't know, the writing between the lines here is telling me that they're just looking for potentially some speed. So I don't feel super burdened to cover all the receivers. I feel burdened to cover the receivers that would fit what I think the Bills are looking for. So there's going to be a lot more receivers drafted than what we're going to talk about, but we are focusing our conversation on the Bills. So we're covering 8 players today. Matthew Golden out of Texas, Jalen Noel, Iowa State, Kyle Williams, Washington State, Jalen Royals out of Utah State, Ty Felton from Maryland, Isaiah Bond from Texas, Dante Thornton Jr. out of Tennessee, and Arian Smith out of Georgia. The last 3 there, Bond is a reported 30 visit for the Bills, and the Bills reportedly had a Zoom meeting with Arian Smith. And so I wanted to definitely cover those guys, in addition to some guys that I think the Bills should really be focused in on to fill this. I'm careful to say hole, but a need for speed. There you go, at receiver. All right, let's start with one of my favorite prospects in the class, Matthew Golden out of Texas. 5'11", 191 pounds, 30 5/8 on the arm length, 9.5 on the hand size. His 40-yard dash time is a 4.29. And we don't have the full RAS score because all he did was run the 40, and obviously a great time at 4.29. In 2024, he had 58 catches for 987 yards and 9 touchdowns. Average depth of target, 13.5 yards from the line of scrimmage. on deep throws. And remember, deep throws means 20 yards or more down the field. So from the line of scrimmage, 20 yards. So that at least that far. Matthew Golden out of Texas was targeted 22 times at 13 catches for 438 yards and 4 touchdowns when you parse out the deep production, which I will highlight for every single one of the 8 players we're going to discuss today. And when you look at that profile and him having 13 catches on deep targets on 22 targets, the rest of Texas had 11 catches on 45 targets. Quinn Ewers, not a very good down the field thrower. So pretty impressive that he was able to carve that out. Matthew Golden is 21 years old. He turns 22 in August. In high school, he played football and competed in track and was very good in track, had a 21.85 triple jump and a 10.93 100 meters. And he started his career with 2 seasons at Houston, then finished with the 2024 campaign at Texas. All right, let's talk about, of course, the 2 questions I like to answer for every prospect. Why should the Bills consider drafting this player? And what concerns are there about forecasting this player to the Bills? So why should the Bills consider drafting Matthew Golden? Well, he's a big-time field stretcher. I love the vertical receiving skill set. Ball tracking down the field, makes great adjustments, can really run by you, obviously, with that elite speed. But I think he does a really good job early in routes to set up that ability to go deep. And he's not just a deep player, right? I think there's an overall route running profile to Matthew Golden that makes him pretty exciting, where I think he's a true 3-level threat. And in particular, how he can push vertical and snap things off and work the middle parts, intermediate parts of the field. I think he's got a pretty complete profile in terms of how he can attack the field. So not just a run down the field, catch the ball guy. I love his body control at the catch point, can really extend for the football, even in a crowd. And, he's not a huge guy, 5'11", 191, but I like how he plays at the catch point and can really elevate and make some good adjustments. And I think he's got a great feel for space. So not just a man beater, right? Like man coverage, we can run away from man coverage, but I think he's got a really good feel for zone, anticipating where space is going to be, making good route adjustments. I think he's got a very complete route running profile. And of course, I love that. I love that ability to separate and run routes. What concerns are there about forecasting Matthew Golden to the Bills? Well, I would say for this type of profile, elite speed, elite vertical profile, yards after catch skill is just okay. I think he's more of a foot race guy and not super creative or not a whole lot of make you miss stuff on film. So you wish he had a little bit more of that for this overall profile that he gives. I think also as a route runner, he could be a little tall. So especially early, like in his release package, as he gets to, the point where he's going to have to break off his route, he can be a little tall. So, look, in college, he's faster than everyone. It's going to be a little bit more technique required at the next level. So let's get some better elevation throughout the route stem. But I really like Matthew Golden. I think he's a first-round prospect. He'd probably be the only receiver I'd be in favor of investing pick 30 in. And he's a talented guy. I don't know if he gets to 30, but I'm a big fan of the overall profile here in Matthew Golden. Let's get to Jalen Noel out of Iowa State, 5'10", 194 pounds, 29.5-inch arms, 8 3/4 on the hand size. RAS score of a 9.75. He ran a 4.39 40-yard dash. In 2024, he had 80 catches for 1,193 yards, 8 touchdowns, average depth of target of 12.2. On deep throws in 2024, 25 targets, 14 catches, 609 yards, and 4 touchdowns. He's 22 and turns 23 in September. Also did the football and track thing in high school, had a 100-meter dash or 100-meter sprint, whatever you call it, at 11.07 seconds. So why should the Bills consider drafting Jalen Noel out of Iowa State? Well, he's got that dog in him. He's a good football player. I really enjoyed watching his tape. I don't think I've seen a slot receiver. He plays primarily from the slot, which is different than Matthew Golden. I think Matthew Golden, like 80% of his receiving snaps came outside. But Jalen Noel is much more of an inside player. But the vertical elements that he provides from the slot is pretty unique. I don't really recall seeing a slot receiver that was used so much down the field. And so whether it was seam shots from the slot, deep overs, some slot fades, go balls. I mean, he was really able to uncover and get loose down the field. And part of that is taking advantage of soft coverage and getting a lot of safeties playing from depth and double moves. And you can really get by those guys, or kind of just maybe teams not expecting that type of impact and utilization from a slot player. But boy, he destroyed a lot of teams with how he was able to win vertically from the slot. I think he's got a very diverse route running profile. He'll have the whole route tree at his disposal. I don't really see any limitations there. He's a fearless competitor with the ball in his hands. Love his willingness to go over the middle, catch the football in a crowd. He is a competitive dude, and you can kind of just feel it in the way that he plays. I love the yards after catch profile. Very creative, physical, twitchy guy with the ball in his hands, and you get a pretty robust resume as a kick and punt returner out of Jalen Noel. So what concerns are there about forecasting him to the Bills? Well, you wish he had bigger hands and you wish he had longer arms. 4th percentile for arm length, 9th percentile for hand size. That's not ideal. And not a guy that's really going to extend his catch radius, right? That's the deal there, is you don't have much catch radius that you offer when you're 5'10" and you got short arms and small hands. I will say that drops really haven't been too much of an issue. Only a 4.8% drop rate in 2024, 7.2% for his career. That's not alarming, but you can see that maybe being a bit more of an issue in the NFL. And then I do think that there's a bit of a slot-only conversation to have with Jalen Noel. 73% of his career snaps on passing downs from the slot. You know, the Bills have plenty of options there. I think there's probably a skill set within him to play on the outside and win. I like what he brings to the table, but he'll have to prove himself as a player that can contribute from a variety of alignments and not just be a slot-only type player. All right, folks, we're just scratching the surface here. Got some of my favorite players, honestly, at receiver coming up that we're going to break down here on the other side of it, so please be sure to stick with us. This is a message from sponsor Intuit TurboTax. Taxes was waiting and wondering and worrying if you were going to get any money back, and then waiting, wondering, and worrying some more. Now, Taxes is matching with a TurboTax expert who can do your taxes as soon as today. An expert who gives your taxes their undivided attention as they work on your return while you get real-time updates on their progress so you can focus on your day. An expert who will find you every deduction possible and file every form, every investment, everything with 100% accuracy, all so that you can get the most money back guaranteed. No waiting, no wondering, no worries. Now this is Taxes. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live full service. Real-time updates only in iOS mobile app. See guarantee details at TurboTax.com/guarantees. All right, a lot of receivers to cover today. Let's keep going here. These next three are really, three of my favorite prospects at receiver. So let's get into it. I love Noel too. I love Golden. These first five guys, really like them. Kyle Williams out of Washington State. Next up, 5'11", 190 pounds, 30 and an 1/8 inch arms, 8 3/4 on the hand size. So you wish you had more length than hand size. RAS score, we don't have the whole thing, but we know that he ran a 4.40 40-yard dash. In 2024 at Washington State, Kyle Williams had 70 catches for 1,196 yards and 14 touchdowns. Average depth of target of 11.5 yards. On deep targets, 24 of those, 14 receptions, 456 yards, and 6 touchdowns. He's 22 years old. He's going to turn 23 in November. In high school, he played quarterback, receiver, and defensive back. First 3 seasons in college at UNLV, last 2 at Washington State. Why should the Bills consider drafting Kyle Williams out of Washington State other than they were very successful the last time they drafted someone named Kyle Williams? Well, I really love his game. The release package here and the route running potential is terrific. And he has played a lot from the perimeter on the outside, 82% of his passing down snaps coming from wide alignments. I think he's super quarterback friendly. I love the way he works back down stem for the football. I love the way that he bends his routes to get to space. I think he's just got a really good feel for what the quarterback is looking for and getting to those spots. I think he's super quarterback friendly. I think he's an elite competitor on the field. I love the way that he battles through contact. He's not huge, 5'11", 190, but he doesn't back down from anything. He is willing to be competitive and physical in everything that he does. And I think he can legitimately win at every level of the field. Of course, we're talking about him because of his field stretching ability and deep tracking and ball skills and all of that. But there's a really dynamic yards after catch profile. And I think the route running ability that he has is going to work in terms of uncovering in that intermediate area of the field. So speed to win deep, creativity with the ball in his hands to win after the catch short, and then, of course, can separate in the intermediate areas as well. So what concerns are there about forecasting Kyle Williams out of Washington State to the Bills? Well, he's got small hands. I don't think he actually extends his catch radius very well. So, there's not a lot of margin for error on throws to him. And I think the skill is there. Like I like the route running upside, but he will need to diversify his route tree. At Washington State, he ran go routes, hitches, and outs, right? Like there's just not a whole lot of routes he was asked to run. And I'm not going to kill him for that because that's what he was asked to do, but he will have to prove his all-around skill set as a route runner, although the physical traits that he has and what he's shown suggests that he's got all the upside to be a very good NFL route runner. Let's talk Jalen Royals out of Utah State. Really like this player. 6 foot 205, 30 1/8 inch arms, 9.5 inch hands, 4.42 40-yard dash. Production-wise in 2024, 55 catches, 839 yards, and 6 touchdowns. And he had a big year in 2023, 70 catches, 1,084 yards, 15 touchdowns. Average depth of target, 11.8 for his career. Deep targets in 2024 had 12 of those, 7 receptions for 238 yards and 2 touchdowns. In 2023 on deep targets, 14 catches, 511 yards, and wait for it, 12 touchdowns in 2024. He turned 22 years old in February. In high school, football, basketball, track guy. And coming out of high school, actually, he self-admitted to this, that grades were a bit of an issue. So he had to spend 2021 at Georgia Military College. But check this out. He went to Utah State. I think him and his dad drove like 1,500 miles or something to get to this workout. And they offered him a scholarship. And he was pretty quiet his first year at Utah State. But he was named all academic Mountain West Conference. So how about that? A guy that kind of recognized an issue, got buckled in the classroom and figured it out, which is super cool. And then of course, from there, the breakout on the field really happened. So if you follow that timeline, I gave you the 2023 and 2024 production was really, really strong, really quiet in 2022, but focused on the grades. And then 2021 at Georgia Military Academy or Georgia Military College. So why should the Bills consider drafting him? Well, he's got size and athleticism, 6 foot, 205 pounds. And I love the overall athletic profile and the functional athleticism that you see on tape. I love how he competes. I think everything he does is aggressive, whether that's being physical with the ball in his hands, route running, release package, at the catch point, blocking. He's going to do all the stuff. And I love that about him. Good body control, good ball skills, and good hands. And those are important qualities of a receiver. I think he's got a lot of route running upside. The agility and flexibility in his lower body suggests that there's a really strong ability to sink his hips, get in and out of breaks, win on the horizontal plane. I like the overall profile here. There's a lot to like. And, of course, the deep production's been consistent over 2 seasons. And you can just kind of feel him on the field, right? There's something about this guy. What concerns are there about forecasting Jalen Royals out of Utah State to the Bills? Well, I think he's just got to diversify his game. At Utah State, kind of a static aligned player on the left side of the formation. So not a whole lot of going in motion, not a whole lot of working from a variety of alignments. He's got to develop more of a route tree. I think I just talked about a limited route tree from Kyle Williams. It's even more limited for this guy where it's just go routes, slants, manufactured touches. Again, I think he's got all the physical upside to be a really good route runner. He'll have to prove it. He'll have to diversify the route tree. And he's only got 2 seasons of production. I think there's a good story to tell there. But at the end of the day, only 2 seasons of meaningful production at the college level. So a lot to like, but also some things for him to iron out and kind of prove himself. Let's talk Ty Felton out of Maryland. 6'1", 183 pounds, 30-inch arms, 9-inch hands. RAS score of a 919, ran 4.37 in the 40-yard dash. 2024 production, 96 catches, 1,119 yards, 9 touchdowns. I think that's a school record, 96 catches. Average depth of target, 9.9. He became a volume player this past year, But in 2023, when he was more of a vertical guy, 14.6 was the average depth of target. In 2024 on deep routes, or deep targets, 28 targets, 8 receptions, 240 yards, 2 touchdowns. He's 22 and actually just turned 22 in March. He led the Big Ten in receptions in 2024, in addition to setting the Maryland school record. So why should the Bills consider drafting Ty Felton out of Maryland? Well, I think he's an ascending player. Every year at Maryland, his role and his production increased. And I think it's a big deal that he proved himself as a volume target, 143 targets in 2024. I think he's got good separation quickness at the top of his routes, very natural ball tracking skills down the field, of course, speed. I love how he competes for positioning at the catch point. Not a big guy, kind of a lanky guy, and that's a bit of a concern, but I think he's very competitive with how he battles for positioning. I think he does have good yards after catch skill. He's got make you miss ability that shows up on tape, as he really showed himself as a 3-level threat this past season at Maryland. What concerns are there about forecasting Ty Felton out of Maryland to the Bills? Well, it's play strength. It's got to improve. He's got a very lanky build, 6'1", 183 pounds. That's not very dense. That's tall and narrow. So that creates some challenges, whether it's beating press coverage, whether that's winning at the top of routes, where there's contact and physicality, winning at the catch point when it's crowded, blocking, right? That's stuff he's going to have to really overcome his lack of mass and narrow build. So adding some functional strength to become a well-rounded player, I think, is very important for Ty Felton. All right, folks, on the other side of it, we got 3 prospects to get to that I think are appealing in some ways, but have a lot of concerns for different reasons. And then I want to give you my rankings and grades for these 8 players. So, folks, that's coming up next. Be sure to stick with me. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just another budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you can stop just managing your money and start building wealth. The insights are surprising. When I first started using Monarch, I realized just how much I was spending on food delivery. Now I budget smarter and save more. The convenience is excellent. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. Plus, it's easy to collaborate. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year. All right, 3 more players to get to that I think all have legitimate concerns. There's some levels of appeal, but I think there are concerns about all 3 of these guys. Let's next get to Isaiah Bond out of Texas. 5'11", 180 pounds, 30.5-inch arms, 8.5-inch hands, so small hands. Ran a 4.39 40-yard dash. Production-wise in 2024, 34 catches, 540 yards, and 5 touchdowns. Average depth of target of 14.6. On deep targets, 14 of those, 2 catches, 89 yards, no touchdowns. He's 21 and just turned 21 in March. In high school football and track, in fact, he was the Georgia 6A state champion in the 100 meters at 10.51 seconds and the 200 meters at 21.19 seconds. 2 seasons at Alabama, then spent last year at Texas. He's got some real notable off-field concerns, and I'm not a reporter, so I don't like to break news or share things, but from what I've been told, I'd be surprised if the Bills did draft him. He'll be in for a 30 visit per reports. I think the Bills are doing due diligence like every team should based on the rumors that are out there on Isaiah Bond. So why should the Bills consider drafting Isaiah Bond? Well, he's got easy gas, big-time foot fire here. I mean, he can manufacture space and create for himself as a route runner and with the ball in his hands. I think he's got elite short area quickness and agility, and he's just overall dynamic in terms of movement skills, right? 5'11", 180. He can really, of course, win with speed down the field, but he complements that with a really quick, twitchy, dynamic overall profile that shows up yards after catch, shows up as a route runner, those types of things. What concerns are there about forecasting Isaiah Bond to the Bills? Well, off-field concerns are major. Very modest production profile here. I just raved about the athleticism, but he has one 100-yard game in his career. It was in 2024 against UTSA. So that's University of Texas San Antonio, the Roadrunners. 99 catches in 3 seasons. That's it. I think he's got big-time questions about beating press coverage. Certainly he's quick, but if he has to play through contact, that's a struggle. I don't think he likes traffic at all at the catch point. He plays small at the catch point, and he doesn't really have issues with hands, but I saw a body catcher on tape. When I said he doesn't have an issue with hands, I meant to say he doesn't really have an issue with drops. He didn't have a ton of drops in college. But again, I saw a body catcher, a guy that likes to kind of guide the football into his frame as opposed to extend his hands and pluck the ball. So I think he needs some work. I think there's questions. I probably stay away from Isaiah Bond, but the Bills are certainly doing due diligence on him. Let's talk about Arian Smith out of Georgia. Bills had this guy in for a Zoom meeting over the weekend. I'm pretty sure Ryan Talbot reported that. Arian Smith, Georgia, 6 foot, 179 pounds, 31 and a quarter inch arms, 9-inch hands. His RAS score is a 9.2 out of 10, ran a 4.36 40-yard dash. In 2024, had 48 catches for 801 yards and 4 touchdowns. Average depth of target, 17 yards for his career. In 2024, deep throws, 17 targets, 7 receptions, 344 yards, and 4 touchdowns. He's 23 and turns 24 in October. In high school, he played quarterback, receiver, defensive back, and running back. Finally focused in on the wide receiver position as a senior. Also was on the track team in high school and in college. State champion in the 100 meters at 10.39 seconds. He does have a big injury history here. Broken wrist in high school, torn meniscus and broken fibula in 2021, broken ankle in 2022, and had a hip injury in 2024. So why should the Bills consider drafting Arian Smith out of Georgia? Well, he's got speed, right? I mean, big-time speed profile here. And if you watch him at Georgia, of course, like he gets loose down the field. There's a lot of times he's just behind everyone. And when the ball is thrown to him, he turns around and catches it like it's a punt. And then he turns around and scores a touchdown. So he can really get behind the secondary. And I think he's also pretty dynamic with the ball in his hands. I mean, he can win foot races and break pursuit angles and rip off big plays. What concerns are there about forecasting Arian Smith out of Georgia to the Bills? Well, the injuries are pretty alarming. He hasn't been a very productive player. I mean, he was in college for a while, and the production profile out of this past season was pretty much non-existent. I don't think he's a very technical player, so route running, release package, I mean, he's pretty much just a fast guy. And drops have also been an issue. 16% drop rate for his career is just alarming. That's way too high. That's got to get cut in half. So a lot of concerns here. Probably more of a late round guy, but the Bills are doing some work on him. So I want to talk about him on this episode, especially because he does profile as a speed receiver. Last one to get to is Dante Thornton out of Tennessee. 6'5", 205, 32 and an 1/8-inch arms, 9 5/8 on the hand size. RAS score of a 9.85 out of 10. Ran a 4.30 40-yard dash. In 2024, 26 catches for 662 yards and 6 touchdowns. Average depth of target of 16.5. On deep throws, 10 targets, 7 catches, 376 yards, and 3 touchdowns. 22 years old. He turns 23 in November. 2 seasons at Oregon, 2 seasons at Tennessee as how he played his college football. So why should the Bills consider drafting Dante Thornton out of Tennessee? Well, size and speed. 6'5", 205 pounds, runs 4.30 on the 40. I mean, size, speed, he's got it. He can also get loose down the field, 22 yards per catch for his career. I think the application of his speed was pretty much all the stuff I talked about with Arian Smith, where this guy just gets a lot of vertical space, a lot of vertical separation. And, of course, if you've ever watched Tennessee play offense, they got a really extreme version of the spread and how they space the field. So they're isolating receivers one-on-one and creating just unbelievable amounts of space. And so when you get that type of speed with that much space, it's a problem. It's a problem for these college defenses. I think he's a very physical player as well, which you love at 6'5", 205. Physical presence as a blocker, physical with the ball in his hands. I think he can play on the perimeter, right? So you're talking about guys that can win down the field, but also, be on the line of scrimmage and not necessarily have to play from the slot. I think that's something you're comfortable with Dante Thornton. And I also feel like there's probably some untapped potential here. And that comes with some level of caution, but there's a physical profile here that I'm surprising wasn't used more in a meaningful way in college. Like you would see the physical upside in some of the flashes here and feel like there should have been a lot of production, and there really wasn't. So what concerns are there about forecasting Dante Thornton out of Tennessee to the Bills? Well, I mean, in 4 seasons in college at Oregon and Tennessee, Oregon throws the ball. They had Bo Nix. Tennessee throws the ball like crazy. 65 catches in 4 years with a 10% drop rate. Not great. I think he's got a big adjustment ahead. I mean, like I said, the Tennessee Vols run a very extreme version of the spread, and I'm kind of concerned about all their skill players. I don't think it sets up running backs well for the looks that they're going to get in the NFL, and receivers. I mean, it's just going to be a different ball game. So he's got a big adjustment ahead. And also for a guy that was underutilized offensively, played 4 seasons of college football, 6'5", 205, runs, as good as any athlete in football. There's really no special teams profile here. And that's going to be a big part of what he's going to have to do in the NFL. I'm not saying he can't play special teams. I wish that he had some resume to point to, because he really wasn't asked to do it in any capacity in college. So those are the 8 players I wanted to talk about here at the wide receiver position, the guys that have big-time speed profile as field stretchers. I rank them 1 through 8 as follows. Matthew Golden is number 1. I have a first-round grade on Matthew Golden. Number 2 is Jalen Noel out of Iowa State. I have a second-round grade on Jalen Noel. 3, 4, and 5 all have third-round grades for me. So 3 is Kyle Williams out of Washington State. 4 is Jalen Royals out of Utah State. I'd say those guys are pretty closely graded. Number 5 is Ty Felton out of Maryland. He's a third-round grade. Number 6 is Isaiah Bond out of Texas. I have a 5 on him. I also have a 5 on Dante Thornton out of Tennessee. Then I have a 7th-round grade on Arian Smith out of Georgia. Just not enough refinement, and injury history is just pretty alarming out of him. So that's how I stack it up. And we got more positions to get to. I want to probably look at running backs this week, guys that have big play ability. I think that's kind of the niche that they're looking for there. Maybe tight end, mid-round targets that can be the tight end 3 as other positions that I'm hoping to get done this week, in addition to herd mentality and some other programming as well. So busy week of Locked On Bills as we get closer and closer to the 2025 NFL draft. And I certainly hope that you feel like these podcast episodes are helping you get prepared for it. I love talking about football players and prospects. So I'm having a lot of fun. I hope that you're having a lot of fun listening to it. All right, folks, that's going to be it for today. As always, I kindly ask that you share, subscribe, rate, and review. Have a great rest of your day. Go Bills. And I look forward to catching up with you again real soon.